I want you to stop for a second. If you've been sitting there, late at night, sending the same resume to 50 different job postings and hearing absolutely nothing back, I want you to know you're not alone. But more importantly, I want you to know that the problem isn't your resume, it's the wall. There's an invisible wall that's gone up in the last year, and most people are just banging their heads against it without realizing it's even there. You've probably done everything right, haven't you? You've used the best prompts, you've optimized every bullet point, you've used AI to automate the application so you can hit apply 100 times before lunch, and yet the market is treating your expertise like background noise. It feels like the harder you work, the more invisible you become. Let's look at what's actually happening behind the scenes right now. The average tech job search has spiked to nearly 20 weeks. That's 5 months of silence. And here's the part that honestly changed how I think about this. Hiring managers are now spending only 2.5 seconds on those AI templated resumes. 2.5 seconds, that's not a review. That's a reflex. Recruiters are telling us that 90% of what they receive is now classified as low-effort spam. Because if an AI wrote it and an AI submitted it, why should a human bother to read it? We've reached a point where being fast is no longer an advantage. In fact, being fast has become a liability. It's a signal that you haven't actually put any of yourself into the process. So, we have to ask the hard question. If AI was supposed to make us more competitive, why is it actually making us more invisible? Let that sit for a second. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're just going to keep getting more of that silence. But there is a pattern I'm seeing with the people who are actually breaking through, and it starts with understanding why the game has changed. There is a shift happening in the industry right now that most people aren't talking about yet. We call it the Faraday shift. If you know what a Faraday cage is, it's a space that blocks out all external electromagnetic signals, and that is exactly what the world's top companies are building into their hiring process. By the end of 2026, half of all global organizations are expected to mandate AI-free, in-person assessments. They are literally putting candidates in a room with a whiteboard or a piece of paper, no internet, no LLMs, no copilot. Just you and your brain. Why? Because there has been a total trust collapse when 61% of candidates who were flagged for cheating with AI still passed the traditional benchmarks. The benchmarks died. Companies realized they weren't hiring experts. They were hiring prompt engineers who didn't actually understand the logic behind the output. Here's the thing, the AI expert title is becoming a career risk. Recruiters are terrified that you're just a consumer of intelligence, not a creator of it. 62% of them will now immediately reject a resume if they identify it as 100% AI generated without personal customization. They aren't looking for the person who can generate the most code or the most text. They are looking for the person who can survive when the signal is cut off. Now, this is the part that changes everything. The market is pivoting from valuing output to valuing auditability. They don't care that the AI gave you the answer. They care that you can explain why the AI is wrong. They want to see the human logic under the hood. So if the crutch is being taken away, how are the top 1% securing those 400 Kelly roles while everyone else is struggling just to get an initial screening? It's not by being better at AI, it's by being better at the one thing AI can't do. I've seen this play out 100 times in my career. Whenever a new tool makes a skill easy, the value of that skill drops to zero. But the value of the person who manages that tool, that skyrockets. We're seeing the rise of what I call the super worker. These are the enterprise AI strategists and fractional CTOs who have stopped selling execution and started selling liability. Let's be honest, execution is cheap now. You can get code, copy, and strategy for pennies from a model. But you can't get accountability. When a company's AI-generated billing system crashes and loses $3 million, they don't blame the model. They look for the person whose neck is on the line. That's where the money is. Enterprise AI strategists are now commanding base salaries between $180,000 and $260,000. Fractional CTOs are seeing their rates jump to $600 an hour or more. They aren't getting paid that much because they know better prompts. They're getting paid because they provide the human oversight that companies are desperate for. They are the ones the company calls when the AI fails. When I first saw this data, it really hit home. There's a 25% to 56% wage premium for roles centered around AI oversight and governance, not implementation. Oversight. These superworkers aren't fighting the machine. They've mastered the ability to decouple their own intelligence from it. They use AI for 80% of the speed, but they charge for 100% of the human liability. They've realized that in a world of infinite cheap output, the only thing that remains scarce is the person who is willing to say, "I've checked this and I'll stake my reputation on its correctness." This leads us to a paradigm shift that you need to start practicing today. It's called intelligence decoupling. Think about it this way. Most people today are consumers of AI. They put in a prompt, they get an answer, and they pass it on. But the top-tier talent, they are validators in 2026. Your value isn't how well you prompt. It's how well you can explain why a prompt's logic is flawed without even looking at a screen. 73% of HR leaders now say that judgment and critical thinking are the most scarce talents in the market, far more than AI skill. There is a 23% salary premium waiting for candidates who can demonstrate first principles thinking. This is the ability to break a problem down to its basic truths and build a solution from scratch. It's the difference between knowing the answer and understanding the math. Here's where it gets really interesting. 43% of Fortune 500 companies have already started implementing human-only verification stages for senior roles. They might give you a complex architectural problem and tell you to solve it with just a pen and a napkin. In the near future, the most valuable person in the room won't be the one who can generate the answer the fastest. It will be the one who can prove the answer is right without hitting enter. Your goal shouldn't be to show how much you can do with AI. Your goal should be to show how much you can do without it. So how do you actually prove you're a validator before you even step into that Faraday test? How do you signal to a recruiter in 2.5 seconds that you aren't just another AI-powered spammer? If you were sitting across from me right now, this is the exact 3-step plan I'd give you to start this week. First, you need to rebuild your human voice. Stop using AI to write your resumes and cover letters from scratch. Use it for research, sure, but the final words have to be yours. Remember that stat? Hiring managers spend 8 seconds on human-centric resumes compared to 2.5 on AI ones. They can smell the AI-ness a mile away. Write like a person who has actually lived the experiences you're describing. Use the word I. Share a specific messy detail that a model would never think of. Second, create a failure portfolio. Most people show off their perfect finished projects. I want you to show the stuff that broke. Document a time you followed an AI's logic, realized it was going down a hallucination rabbit hole, and how you used your own expertise to pull it back. This proves you are a validator. It shows you have the first principles thinking that commands the 23% salary premium. Finally, practice analog synthesis. Once a week, take a complex problem from your field and try to map out the solution entirely offline. No Google, no ChatGPT. Just you and a notebook. If you can't explain the why behind your work without a screen, you're not an expert, you're a user. Josh Bersin said it best. Competitive advantage is no longer the technology itself, but the human-led innovation around it. You don't need more AI tools. You need to demonstrate the one thing AI can't replicate: individual accountability. The $400 Cayley Faraday test isn't a threat. It's actually your biggest opportunity to finally stand out in a world of noise. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to feel slower at first. But the people who figure this out, they're the ones getting the callbacks. They're the ones getting the offers, and I know you can be one of them. Thanks for sitting down with me today. Let's get to work.